The Greens yesterday revealed their totalitarian streak, anti-democratic, very disturbing. I mean, give this party real power and we could really pay. But the point is, they nearly have that power already. Next week, Parliament's going to be back for the first time since Labor and the Greens won the election 2 months ago. Labor won government in the lower house. The Greens won the balance of power in the Senate. Labor can't get anything through that the Liberals oppose unless the 12 Green senators and one other senator say, yep, that can pass. And yesterday, the Greens leader, Adam Bandt, outlined his demands, what he wants from the Labor government if his party is going to support its global warming policy to cut our emissions by 43% by 2030. Now, this policy, could be disastrous. I'm betting it will be. But Adam Bandt says it's still not tough enough. But more than that, he wants Labor to work the fine print so that no future government that we vote in can ever back off these climate targets, even if the damage turns out to be too much.
There's a number of problems with it at the moment. It potentially puts a ceiling on the ambition. It means that potentially if a future government wanted to lift the 43% target, they might have to come back to Parliament. So, imagine a change of Senate that gives Pauline Hanson in the future veto over a future government. A future government might actually be able to put in a commitment to the Paris Agreement that's lower than 43%. And so if you're going to legislate, you want to Dutton-proof it.
This is so extraordinary. Here are the Greens demanding a law that stops Australians in the future from changing their mind and voting for different policies if the price of going green now turns out to be terrible. And in fact, we're seeing this overseas. Sri Lanka in chaos, its government's collapsed, the country bankrupt in part because of global warming policies that destroyed Sri Lanka's harvest of tea and coffee. We also see it in Germany, Italy, Holland, Britain, now reopening coal-fired plants and mines because they don't have enough electricity. They've changed their mind. But our Greens say no. No matter what happens here, a future Australian Parliament must not change policies, even if most voters want it. That's democracy Green style for you. You get one vote, just one time. Now, luckily, the Albanese government's Energy Minister, Chris Bowen, was today not that keen on agreeing to this Greens demand, even though ABC presenter Patricia Karvelas seemed to think this was a great idea to stop Liberal leader Peter Dutton.
Adam Bandt, the Greens leader, said yesterday, if you're going to legislate, you want to Dutton-proof it, right? So that if there was a shift to another government in 3 years, Australian politics can be quite a wild ride, that, as you would well know, that you would basically protect this ambition. What do you say to that?
Well, look, I understand where he's coming from. To one degree, Patricia, no parliament can bind a future parliament.
But Adam Bandt had another demand if Labor wants to get its new targets through the Senate next week.
What about new coal and gas projects? And this, for us, is a critical one. If we're negotiating something in Parliament on a Monday, and then on Tuesday, and we pass it, and then on Tuesday, the government turns around and says, oh, by the way, we're now going to open the Scarborough Gas Project in Western Australia, and Beetaloo. Beetaloo alone in the Northern Territory could add 13% to the emissions. That's not factored into the government's 43%
and I'll come back to the Beetaloo.
Hey, think about this. No more new coal and gas projects. And Chris Bowen today, the Labor Minister, didn't reject that idea outright. This is actually a real threat because coal is now Australia's biggest export. It's what keeps us going when the economy looks so rocky. The Labor Treasurer Jim Chalmers today warned our standard of living could be in for a hammering. He's working on a financial statement to show us next week how much strife we're really in.
When it comes to the impact of interest rate rises on growth, when it comes to what this spike in inflation means for real wages, there will be aspects of this ministerial statement that people will find confronting.
So this country is in so much economic strife and so deep in debt, yet the Greens want to lock in a ban on the coal and gas that earns us billions as well as keeping on our lights. But on the other hand, you have to think, should the Greens actually worry that a future Liberal government would stop this craziness anyway? You look at the federal Liberals. Already 2 MPs want to back Labor's plan. Andrew Bragg, of course, and Bridget Archer. I mean, seriously. Or you go and look at the truly pathetic Liberal opposition in Victoria, which is now promising ahead of the state elections, emissions cuts even higher than the Albanese government's. It's unbelievable. It wants a 50% cut in emissions by 2030 when the Albanese government's already bad enough saying it wants 43%. The Victorian Liberals, no courage, no principle, blind to the energy crisis that's devastating economies around the world, deaf to warnings that Victoria itself faces now a gas crisis, not enough gas to heat homes in winter. And our electricity supply is already so bad that companies this week are demanding $1 billion in compensation, which is your money, for being forced by our energy market operator last month to supply power for less than it costs them to produce to stop massive blackouts, shortage of electricity. Now, in some ways, what you're seeing in that Victorian Liberal Party, Liberal, scare quotes, it's the same mentality that you're seeing in the Greens. Hold on to your extremist position, never mind the facts, and never mind that things actually change. And that's what we're now dealing with. A culture, a political culture particularly, increasingly where extremists rule and emotions are the new facts.